يريد الله ليبين لكم ويهديكم سنن الذين من قبلكم ويتوب عليكم والله عليم حكيم والله يريد أن يتوب عليكم ويريد الذين يتبعون الشهوات أن تميلوا ميلا عظيما يريد الله أن يخفف عنكم وخلق الإنسان ضعيفا الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين اللهم اجعلنا منهم ومن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين ثم أما بعد Inshallah, in this brief address, I'd first like to express my joy and my gratitude that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave me the opportunity to return to your community. Alhamdulillah, it's an absolute pleasure to see the construction completed and the masjid hustling and bustling at midnight. May Allah keep the masjid alive and well and keep all of you regular and committed to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah make this a Ramadan that is accepted. And all of the worship we've engaged in it is accepted from us, and the blessings of this month that come out and extend to the rest of the year are that we remain sincere in all of our ibadat, and that we make sincere and actual, true, complete tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jal, and we remain strong against the waswasa of shaitan once he returns. Anyhow, I was told maybe 12 times this week, make sure it's about the youth. So, I've decided not to talk about these. Okay. Well, the first thing that popped in my head is something I say all the time, so I'll say it again. I think we have to treat our youth like adults. I think the fact that we treat them like youth stops them from maturing. We brand them into a special category and we want them to be, kind of separated from the adult setting. If you look at the seerah of Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he paid special attention to youth, but when he would teach, the children are sitting there. And some of his best students are children. So they're sitting among some of the Jalilul Qadr Sahaba, some of the older Sahaba, and children, teenagers are sitting next to them, and it's all good. And they're learning just the same. And sometimes older Sahaba are learning from younger Sahaba as their teachers. This is a norm within the life of Allah's Messenger. And so again, even though I've said this before, I don't mind repeating it. In our society, and it's not just an American problem, it's a global problem, we refuse to treat children that reach the age of bulugh, they reach a certain age according to Sharia, according to Islam, they're legally adults, right? But as far as society is concerned, they're just teenagers. Or they're just 20. Or they're just 25. Oh, he's a tender 29. Or whatever. So we say, oh, they're just young, let them have some fun, they haven't grown up yet, let them live life a little. Listen, as far as our deen is concerned, the moment you hit a certain age, Allah declared you're an adult. So, I have to treat you like one. And the deen treats you like one. And if you make a mistake, there's no juvenile court in the Sharia. If you're at a certain age and you commit a crime, the crime applies to you as it applies to someone who's 80 years old or 50 years old or 16 years old. It wouldn't matter now. Why? Because as far as the deen is concerned, you're an adult. Now the consequence of that is when you are spoken to as an adult and when expectations are made from you as expectations are made of adults, then you start acting like an adult because that is what is expected from you. But when it's expected from you to act like a child, then it's not a surprise that you're 18 years old, but 8 hours of your day are spent behind the Xbox 360 or the PS3 or whatever else. That's because you refuse to act like an adult. It's almost expected from you to be a goofball. And all of your friends around you think of themselves as, youngin or children or, not quite, old people yet, etc. So they act like a bunch of kids, and you're around them and it only reinforces that idea in your own head. And yet at the same time, you can have places in the world, even today, where 14, 15 years old kids are heads of the household. And they're taking care of the entire family. And that's a reality in a lot of the world. So in a society that's supposed to be, we're living in what was recently called by a friend of mine, Jannah on earth. The luxuries we have, if you compare them to what people are going through in Pakistan, right? It's not like we have luxury. We have Jannah here, right? And so for a society that's so advanced, for the maturity of our young people to be so far behind, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of a reverse engineering. Our children should be the most mature, but they're the least mature, unfortunately, and part of that is our own fault. We don't treat them like adults. We don't speak to them like adults. You know, I'll give you a childish example, but I think it gets the point across. You know, sometimes you have children, and you speak to them, like when you talk to them, you kind of sound retarded yourself. You talk to them like that. And so they talk back to you like that, and they could even turn 6 years old, and you talk to them, and they're talking like that back to you. And if, you know, somebody else comes into your house, and an 8-year-old is acting like they're 3, and you're like, is this kid, does he suffer from mental problems? Is he okay? We throw him to a specialist? No, it's our only child. We treat him a little special. No. And you'll find even in some homes when you have 3, 4-year-old kids, but the parents don't talk down to the children, they talk to them in an intelligent, coherent fashion, you'll find 3-year-old children making grammatically correct sentences too. Because Allah gave the human being that kind of an intellect. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. My special talk to the youth is not very special. It's for, inshallah ta'ala, myself and everybody. Because I personally expect a high level of intelligence from our young people. I expect it. I don't want to dumb anything down for them. I don't think they're dumb at all. Actually, I think some of the smartest people sitting in this room are what we are labeling as, those silly youth. Right? They're some of the smartest people sitting in this room. And they know their way around technology and what's going on in the world far more than many of the old-timers here. For a lot of the old-timers, Twitter is something that happens in your eye. so anyhow. But now the point. This is one of the blessed nights of, and towards the conclusion of this incredible month. And what better thing to share with each other than a reminder from Allah's book? So I was thinking to myself, what kind of reminder, what I want to get for myself, and especially for a community at large, something that I've heard a lot of times that Allah Azza wa Jalla actually beautifully addresses is the question, what does Allah want? The question is, what does Allah want? Whenever you have an obligation to someone, you are in a position of, let's say you're an employee and you have a boss over you, or you're a student, you have a teacher over you, right? Or you're a soldier and you have a general over you. It's very important to understand what your boss or your general or your teacher or your parent wants. It's very important to know what do they want. If you don't know what they want, then you're going to fail at your responsibilities. And sometimes they give you commands and they tell you, do this, do this, do this, do this, and employees get tired. I don't know what he wants. They say about their boss, I don't know what this guy wants. They're confused about what their boss wants from them. Well, similarly, it's a very important question to ask. What does Allah want from us? What does He want? And so, several places in the Quran, about a dozen places in the Quran, Allah addresses subhanahu wa ta'ala an ayah in the phrasing of yuridullah. Allah wants. Allah intends. What does Allah want? What does Allah intend? And one of the first places we find that in the Quran, interestingly, has to do with Ramadan. Allah says, yuridullahu bikum al-yusra wa la yuridu bikum al-usra. The first place in the Mus'haf we find Allah wants, you know what He says? He talks about fasting, and then He says, even to the community that lives in Texas in the hot summer and the long fasting day, He says Allah wants ease for you. After He gives us the days of fasting, He says Allah wants ease for you. And you know what's beautiful about that ayah? The ayah before was the early rulings of fasting. When the first time fasting was revealed, it was not for the month of Ramadan. It was 3 days minimal in every month, in the middle 3 days. And at the max, less than 10 days in a month. And it was not, and even if you miss a fast, you could make it up by giving fidya. You could give a certain amount of charity, feeding poor, and that would be compensating you for the fast that you missed. But then Allah revealed, no more 3 days in a month, now you have to do how many in a row? 30 in the month of Ramadan altogether. And if you take a break in the middle and you decide not to fast or whatever, no, you have to make it up. You can't just give fidya now. The previous ayah was, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. The people who don't have the capability to do so, they can give fidya. But this time He says, no, if you miss it, then you have to make it up. So which one is harder? The one that you give some money and you're done with it, or the one when you have to make it up again? When you have to make it up again. Now which one's easier? When you do 3 days in a row or 30 days in a row? Which one's easier? 3 days in a row. So the first ruling of the ayat, when the fasting was revealed, was easier. Then the ayah of Ramadan came, and it's obviously harder. And when it's harder, you and I think it's harder. And Allah says at the end of the ayah, Allah wants to make things easy for you. You see that? He made the ruling apparently harder. But as soon as He made it hard, what did He say? Don't think I'm making it hard. What should you think? Allah wants to make things easy for you. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. And it's not that He wants difficulty for you. That's not the reason. In other words, what He's giving you is better for you. Even if you might think it's hard, it's actually easy, and He knows that it's easier for you. This is better for you. This is going to bring you ease and comfort in life. SubhanAllah. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ. Then where else does He say? This is actually the whole passage I wanted to share with you. Even if I don't share all the ayat that Allah intends, if I just share these few ayat from Surah Al-Nisa that I recited, this is probably the most comprehensive passage. If somebody asks you what does Allah want, you can turn to these ayat. This is ayat number 26 onwards of Surah Al-Nisa. Surah Al-Nisa is surah number 4. Okay? So the first ayat, He says, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ. Allah intends, Allah wants to clarify for you. The first thing He wants to do is make sure that every one of His instructions are clear for you. Now there's a difference between saying clear to you and clear for you. When you say for someone, you're trying to help them out. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, when I clarify my rulings for you, when I clarify my instructions to you, who's going to benefit? Allah or you? You. Allah wants to benefit you by clarifying His book. That's the first thing Allah wants. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ. Then He says, وَيَهْدِيَكُمْ سُنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. The second thing He wants to guide you to the ways of those who came a long time before you. Now what does that mean? He wants to guide you to the ways of those who came a long time before you. You know, a lot of times among your friends, one of your friends gives you advice, man, I don't think you should do that. Whatever, man, it's okay. No big deal. And you feel like you're the first one who's been given this kind of advice, and there's no big deal if you don't listen to this advice, you can handle it. You know? And you don't think this has happened before. But you know, advice has been given in the generation before you, and the generation before that one, and the generation before that one. There were people who tried to give advice to other people. And people would say, no, I don't think so. No, thank you. I don't need your advice. Right? And what happened to those people who didn't take the advice? And what happened to those people who actually benefited from the advice? People have been destroyed, and people have been successful based on how they responded to advice, right? So Allah gives us, listen, when you are being presented with instructions, when the Khatib in Jum'ah asks you to do something, and you just in your head say, whatever, yeah, that's nice, but I don't think so. I don't have time for that kind of stuff. You know? And you don't take the instructions of Allah seriously, then know that you're not the first one to have that attitude. There were people before who had similar attitudes, and Allah made sure we know that they were thoroughly destroyed. They were completely wiped out. And then Allah gave us a warning even to the Muslims. The Quran is amazing. It doesn't just scare the kuffar. It doesn't just scare the disbeliever. It scares the believer too. Allah turned to us, He told us, إِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. SubhanAllah. If you turn away, He will replace you with a nation other than yourself. ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. They won't be like you. In other words, they won't be losers like you. They won't turn away. When they're instructed, they will listen to the instructions and they will obey them. They will live by this guidance. Once it becomes clear to them, they follow it. Not that it becomes clear to them and they say whatever, because we do live in the whatever generation. Right? Our response to everything is, whatever. That's our response to everything. That's the scariest answer to me. It's worse than no or I disagree. At least you have conviction when you say no. At least you have some kind of belief system, even if it's kufr. I know where you stand. It's black or white. When you say whatever, it doesn't mean anything. It means I don't care. I have no conviction either way. And unfortunately, if there's any complaint I will make of our youth today, they don't stand on conviction. They stand on whatever. Everything is whatever. And what you doing? Whatever. What do you want to do later? Whatever. Did you like that? Did you understand anything of that speech? Yeah, whatever. You know, everything is whatever. Apathetic to everything. Not taking a stand on anything. And you think that's kind of being cool. That's being, you're showing your superiority by not holding on to one conviction or the other. That's not a sign of being cool. It's just a sign of being, what's the word? Weak. It's weak. You know, when you're strong, you take a stand. When you're too weak or too afraid to take a commitment,